Well, if I can have everyone's attention, please. Before we begin, I want to say a few words and thank for all of you for being here today. I know today is Saturday. There's a lot of places we can be, but we're here for a reason, and I'll tell you why I'm here. But before that, I want to thank my parents who have given the life of love to me. Really, our success has been a lot of sacrifice from family and friends. And then also, the love of my life, Annie. Justin. Yes. A lot of time, you know, when I ask people to come over with my friend, Annie denied it. But when I say it's for Justin, she said, "Oh, okay."
Thank you so much.
You know.
God bless you.
So this was, you know. So we know who the true boss is. I submitted the proposal about 30 days ago. But anyway, all seriousness, why we're here, I'll tell you, you know, why I believe in Justin. You know, I think we need somebody here that understand our community, understand a voice for us, for a small business, for minority. That's really why I believe in Justin and support him. But more importantly, you know, as you probably know, in our culture, we get the word shy when it comes to politicians. So I don't see Justin as a politician. I see him as my brother. Absolutely. So I'm here to support my brother. So thank you, Justin, for being here. And in 58 days, he told me, he will be the next Lieutenant Governor of Virginia.
I mean, I don't even know what you say after that. But first off, I will also acknowledge my wonderful I'm going to tell you, so I moderated the governor's forum on Thursday, right? And everybody was standing there pointing out their elected officials, said, I just want to acknowledge my wife. Let's make sure that we don't talk about anything on the ride home. We don't talk about that, I acknowledge my wife. But again, I realize that I'm not here without her. So, you know, thank you so much. You know, and I want to thank your parents too, because you have created an amazing young man. I'm probably not here without him either, so. So, this right here, you know, it's funny every time we get this collection of people, right? And we're reaching out to different organizations and person at a time. And you're trying to bring them together. But this one was a little different. This one, what excited me about it is that I could bring all of my mentors, all the people that have instilled so much into me, into this one room to galvanize around the fact that we had someone who believed in what we believed in, who believed in us, and who can continue to fight for us and be able to make an impact. And that's why this room right here was so powerful. That's why I was making the calls and we were sending the texts and the emails and all of those things. Not because there is a politician who says the right things, but because there was a good man who had the heart and the character to stand up for the right things and fight for us. And just as men said, Justin and I go back to, we met in 2011. And it was instant that it was something more than just two people who would one day run for office. It was two people who understood that we stood on the shoulders of so many people who have done so many things to help us get to this point for where we were. And I'm so grateful to be associated to him. I'm so grateful to watch him rise and watch him grow, but not just because of what that means for him, but because of what that's going to mean for so many people. You know, Justin doesn't adjust his message. He doesn't adjust things just so that way you will vote for him. He lets you know who he is as a man. And that's, I tell people, there are two types of politicians that we like. There are those who do the right things because they want to get the credit for it. They want somebody to say, great job and well done. And then there are those who do it because it's just the right thing to do. So I don't come up here to speak to you about Justin, the politician. I come up here to talk to you about how I support Justin, the man, our close friend, our brother, our family. And I'm just grateful to have the opportunity for each of you to get to see firsthand what it is that we saw so long ago. This man right here, you know, it's funny, everyone always said, they said, you know, Michael, you know, you're great, you're going to be a good politician, you're going to do all of these things. And I was joking with them, and I said, you know, after Justin and I sat down, I was like, Jesus. Is this what Scottie Pippen felt like when he was like, I was good, like 5 minutes ago. Like, 5 minutes ago, I was the man. But there's nobody else that I can imagine being associated to on this journey. And there's nobody else that I could think of that is better suited to help Virginia make these next steps. Because of what we saw happen down in Charlottesville, what we've realized is there's a much larger conversation for us to have. And it's beyond just symbols, it's beyond just bigotry or racism. There are systematic things that are in front of us that we want to be able to have conversations about. There are minority contracts, there are education gaps, there are pay gaps. And what happens is when we have these boards and commissions and appointments and things like that, there's not a lot of people that look like this room that are sitting in there. And that's not personal to anybody. But what we realize is, as people have heard me say many a time, if you don't have a seat at the table, that means you're on the menu. So I look forward to watching this young man continue to grow, continue to develop, and continue to make an impact. So with that, I got to bring up my brother, one of my best friends, and one of the best men that I know, Mr. Justin Fairfax.
Thank you all so much. First of all, good afternoon, everyone. I'm so humbled and honored that you all would assemble here today, and I want to thank the big boss, Annie. Give you a round of applause. Thank you so much. And then I want to thank you, our brother, to me, and I've been so grateful along this journey to not only to get to spend time with you, to get to know you, but to really get to know your heart and your incredible story and most importantly, your passion for other people and making sure that they get an opportunity in life. I think it's what binds us all together. You've been a great business leader, a great community leader, and I think you play basketball better than I do. And I know Michael does as well, but again, thank you for everything that you do. I want to give you a round of applause. I want to thank the other big boss, Dr. Futrell, Dr. Futrell, and your beautiful children, and Max too. I want to shout Max out. I see Melanie and Michael II are here as well. She is, as you all know, brilliant. She is wonderful, Michael's better half, and she's been with us every step of this journey. And of course, even as they've taken on their own leadership journey. And I remember running in 2013 for office, and of course, Michael was running as well, and he was very kind in what he said to me. I don't agree with that analogy because I don't have a mural on the wall in the Commonwealth of Virginia, but this man does. His face is on the mural, and he was the first African American elected in Stafford County in 350 years. So but even as they were going through their own journey, they always had time to reach out to me and to my wife Serena and to our kids, and our kids have really grown up together, literally, and they're just two special people. I call them Barack and Michelle every time I see them, and that's what they remind me of, that dynamic. But thank you so much for everything that you do, and Delegate Futrell. This guy is amazing. I don't know where he gets the energy. I don't know where he really gives off so much inspiration. I don't know where he gets it himself, but he came onto the scene, and I think just blew everybody away. And it's continued. He said he moderated the gubernatorial debate just a couple days ago. I mean, that's a really significant thing to have him helping to shape the debate for the entire Commonwealth of Virginia. I mean, that shows his stature, it shows the respect and the high regard people hold him in, and he is someone I'm honored to call a brother to take this life journey with. So I want to thank you as well. I'll give you a round of applause. And I really want to, again, thank each one of you. I see a room full of just wonderful friends and special people, and we are at an incredibly unique time in the history of this Commonwealth, but also this country. This is, I believe, the most important statewide election that we have ever had in the Commonwealth of Virginia, because we are now, as Michael mentioned, I believe fighting for the heart and the soul of this country. We're in a battle to figure out who we are, what are our values, who counts, who gets a shot at the American dream, who gets protected from discrimination, whose family gets to rise no matter where they start. It is fundamentally what makes us American. It is what I believe distinguishes this nation from any nation on the face of the planet Earth. And that very fundamental tenet is being questioned right now. Because there is a dark political ideology that says only certain people count, depending upon if your family has money, the color of their skin, their sexual orientation, who they love. Those folks would have us be divided, would pit us versus them, and take us down a dark road, which we saw in Charlottesville, what that looks like. History rearing its ugly head in our present day. And as I watched the coverage of that, I know we all were impacted by it dramatically. It's something that people followed around the world. Unfortunately, 3 people lost their lives. In that tragedy, I was at the funeral of one of the state troopers who unfortunately passed away. And I think it really brought to front and center the challenge that we now face. This really is about who we are at our fundamental core as a country. And in Virginia, in 58 days on November the 7th, we get a chance to answer that question about which road we're going to take. And this is the first major national election statewide in the country since the inauguration of this current president. And so this will be the first time that people hear from us as Americans about what we believe, who we are. Do we accept what we're seeing out of this White House? Do we accept the division and the racism and the discrimination and the lack of opportunity? Do we believe that that is the new normal? Or are we going to appeal to the better angels of our nature? Do we believe that everybody gets a chance to rise, that everybody's life matters, that everyone counts, and that we all get a shot at the American dream? We're going to answer that question, that fundamental question, in 58 days at the ballot box. And so that's why what you are doing to support this campaign is both special to me, but I think also special to everyone that I've gotten to see over the last year and a half around Virginia. We've traveled now over 50,000 miles in the car, and it really has been amazing to meet people where they are, to meet their families, to see their communities, the anxieties that they have, the hopes and dreams, the aspirations that they have. It really, at the end of the day, I think is something that's inspirational. Because what I have seen, no matter where I've gone, is that we have some very common beliefs, concerns, thoughts, hopes for ourselves, for our children, for our families, and those are being tested right now. Are we to go forward together, united, or are we going to splinter and forever be divided? And I think we're going to answer that question positively on November the 7th. I really believe the signal that we send by what we do in hopefully electing Ralph Northam as our next governor, and Ralph is a wonderful man, an Army veteran, a pediatric neurologist, someone who has served this nation and this Commonwealth with distinction, and Mark Herring, who's done a great job as Attorney General and fighting for civil rights for all. He just mentioned that Virginia's going to join a lawsuit around DACA to protect that very important but vulnerable population of people. And I think DACA in and of itself is somewhat of a microcosm for what we're battling here, because the young people who are protected under that program, more than half of them came to this country before the age of 6. So for most of them, this is the only country that they have ever known. They came, not on their own volition, but they also went about pursuing the American dream. 91% of DACA recipients are employed. 100% have no criminal record. And all of them pay money every year to maintain their status. These are people who serve in the military, who are in our colleges and our community colleges, who are small business owners, who are adding so vibrantly to our economy and to our culture and to our country, and yet you have people who want to take that all away from you. I saw a young lady on TV just last night, and almost brought me to tears. She was a DACA recipient, and she came out publicly to a rally, even though she knew that that would mean that people could identify her. Because she said, if I don't speak up, and if I don't get somebody's ear, if someone doesn't hear my story, then no one's going to help me, and no one's going to help all the other people who need help. And so that is part of that battle for the heart and soul of this country. And again, we in Virginia are in a privileged and unique position to get to be the ones to speak on behalf of this nation in 2017 about who we value and what we value. And so I am so grateful to be in a position to be on a ticket, and that's only because of your support and your help. We had a primary on June the 13th. It was a hard-fought primary, a three-way battle, and took a lot of effort, blood, sweat, and tears, but you all had our back. And you got behind us and you believed in what we could do together. We ended up winning that primary by 10 percentage points. And that's only because you all were with us the entire way. We got 250,000 votes in that primary. Record-setting number of votes for lieutenant governor. And so we are on this incredible journey right now. And we have the chance to do something amazing. And to write a new chapter in the great American story, a new chapter of inclusion, a new chapter of opportunity for all. But we have to make sure that everyone comes out and votes. No one can stay home in this election. I tell people, my theory is that 100% of people vote in every election. It's just a matter of how you vote. If someone sits on the couch and they can't be bothered, they voted to say that they're fine with whatever's going on in the country. They're fine that Virginia is #1 in what's known as the school to prison pipeline, where we refer young people, particularly young people of color, and from socioeconomic statuses where they're challenged at a higher rate than any other state in the United States of America. We are nearly 3 times the national average in terms of referring young people for school-based infractions to the criminal justice system. So if someone stays home, they're saying that they're fine with that. They're fine that we have not expanded Medicaid in the Commonwealth of Virginia, something that would cover 400,000 more Virginians, would create 30,000 new jobs, would make sure we're not continuing to give away $6.6 million every single day, which is what we give away by not having expanded Medicaid. We've already given away about $10.4 billion with a B in federal money that we otherwise would have had. And if someone doesn't vote, they're saying that they're fine that that's the case. And they're fine that we don't have the diversity that we need at all levels, on our boards, on our commissions, the representation among our contractors, making sure that everyone gets a shot. No one's locked out of opportunity. And so that's the question that we get to answer in 58 days. And did anyone here follow the French presidential election? Did you all show of hands? Anybody? I did too, and I took French in college. Don't ask me to speak it. You'd be very, very upset with me. But I followed it, and I think many of us did for the first time in my case ever. And I think the reason that you saw so much interest in that election, both in this country and around the world, is because people wanted to get a sense of what kind of world we're becoming. Were we continuing to go down this dark road where vulgarity and misogyny and xenophobia and homophobia and otherizing people, where those became the new normal, or were we going to go down a different path, a more peaceful, more prosperous path where everyone gets a shot? And I think the fact that the candidate won, who our current American president openly campaigned for the other candidate, who shared many of his views, but the other candidate won. And you heard shouts of joy, not just in Paris, but literally all around the world. Because people said we don't have to choose darkness. It is not inevitable that we go down this road of hatred. We actually can see people who have a say in how our society grows and prospers and embraces everyone. And so that's what happened in the first presidential election, but that's why the eyes of the world are now right here on the Commonwealth of Virginia. They are looking to see what we're going to do. And the message we send will reverberate far beyond the borders of the Commonwealth. Really, we're just sharing our stories. And it was a powerful time because I got to hear these common themes, these common threads about sacrifice from parents, about sacrifice from our families and our spouses and our children, and hopes and dreams and aspirations, and fighting against the odds. And it just renewed my faith in this country. And it renewed my faith in how great we all can be when we work together. And so when I heard Min's story, I was so moved, and we spent a couple of hours talking through it. I knew Michael's story, but to hear him tell it will move you all over again. It's a powerful story of hope and of opportunity. And I got to share my story, which was, in my view, a different version of the exact same thing. As many of you know, I was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, but I was raised in Washington, D.C. We moved to D.C. when I was about 5 or 6 years old. My parents, I'm very close to both of them, but they got divorced. And so what that meant was that my mom had to find a place to start over. And for us, that was with my late maternal grandparents, who were two of the best people I've ever known. My grandfather was a World War II veteran, Howard University graduate, and he worked at the Postal Service for 45 years. Walked to work every single day to put food on the table for his family. My grandmother, also a Howard University graduate, she was a nurse at Freedman's Hospital, which is now Howard University Hospital. When their oldest child, who was my mom, came knocking on their door in the mid-1980s saying she needed a place to start over with their 4 kids, they did something really incredible, and they took all 5 of us into their home. They had a tiny row home in Northeast Washington, D.C. They didn't have a lot of money, but they had a lot of love. And they loved their family and loved their community. So by them taking us in, it changed the entire trajectory of our lives. My mom was able to work as a pharmacist. Do you all remember People's Drug? Mm-hmm. Okay, good. Old school. When I visited college, they don't remember that. But People's Drugs, now CVS Pharmacy, she worked there, saved up enough money to buy the house right across the street. My grandparents lived in number 14. My mom bought number 9. And that is the house where she still lives today, nearly 30 years later. And with the help of so many people, our neighbors, church family, complete strangers who embraced us, she was able to send all 4 of her children to college and 2 of us to law school, starting from that place. My oldest brother, Roger, is the vice dean now at GW Law School. He went to Harvard undergrad and Harvard for law school. A sister, Virginia, true story. She grew up in Virginia, Fairfax. I got teased a whole lot because that was her name, but she is now, she has a different last name now, but she is a labor and delivery nurse. She went to the University of Maryland and now is a labor and delivery nurse living in Maryland. I have a brother, Christopher, who went to Syracuse, and he is an engineer in the defense industry, so he designs flight systems for UAVs and for commercial airliners. And lives in Virginia, and I was pulling up the rear. I went to Duke University for undergrad on a partial scholarship. I then went to law school at Columbia, later worked at a firm, became a federal prosecutor, and now involved in public service full time. So I share that story because that really is the foundation of my own passion for public service. It's what other people did for us to make that story possible. I said they gave us something I like to call spiritual wealth. We did not have a lot of money. But we had faith, and we had hope, and we had optimism, and a high-quality education, and people who said no matter how dark today may seem, tomorrow can be much brighter. And you have to believe that every single day of your life. But you also have to lift as you climb and make sure that more people get an opportunity like the one people gave to you. So what I believe to my core is that when someone gives you that kind of spiritual wealth in your life, you then have a spiritual debt that you must repay. You have to go out and fight and make that story possible for more people. That is why we are engaged in this campaign. It's why we're engaged in public services, because I want every young child and every family to get that exact same shot. No matter what bumps and bruises they go through in life, in this country, if you are here, that means you get an opportunity. And that's what makes us special. It makes us unique. And as I said, and as we shared those stories over lunch, and as I've gotten to learn everybody's individual story and their family journey, this is something that has always been so inspirational to me, is I believe that we all have different versions of the exact same story. You could substitute out my grandparents for an aunt and uncle, a mom, a dad, a pastor, a coach, a rabbi, a teacher, an imam, somebody who came along at some point in our journey and did something really incredible for us, changed the entire trajectory of our lives. And so we are repaying a collective spiritual debt by what we're doing in politics and by what we're going to do in 58 days at the ballot box. So that's the vision that we have, that we share. High-quality education for everyone, access to community college and 4-year colleges, access to capital so people could start and grow their own small business. My wife, Dr. Serena Fairfax, and I, many of you know Serena, is a dentist, and we own a family dental practice in Fairfax, Virginia, that we bought 10 years ago. And please make sure you tell her I'm bragging on her right now, because she went to VCU for dental school, and in 2015, VCU in the house, and in 2015 was honored as the most outstanding dental school alumna of the last decade. And she is, so tell her I said that when you see her, all right? But that is the kind of opportunity that she's got in her life. And she comes from a very similar circumstance. So that's what this nation is all about. And it doesn't matter the color of your skin, where you were born, how much money your family has, where you grew up, what your zip code is, who you love. You get that chance. And that's our vision. That's our collective vision, all of us together. And it stands in stark contrast to the vision that other people have. That very dark vision that doesn't welcome people, that does not create opportunity for all. And so I am proud of what we are doing. I believe we are on the right side of history in this campaign and the issues we focused on. And I'll conclude by saying this. I'll share a quick story from the road. We were at Labor Day. We, as I mentioned, did about 1,000 miles around the state. I was with Senator Tim Kaine and Pam Northam and Ralph Northam and Mark Herring. And you know, we saw great crowds. We're at UVA. We had 200 people, 200 students come out to UVA on the lawn. It's a really impressive gathering. They had cake for us, which I ate a little bit of, and they were really excited. And this was only a couple of weeks after what we saw in Charlottesville. Michael mentioned the violence there on August the 12th. It was inspirational to me to see these young people who still were filled with all kind of hope, who had seen some of the worst things and been in a place where it all happened, and yet they didn't choose hatred. They chose love, they chose hope, they chose inclusion. And just about a week before that, I was in Charlottesville again after the domestic terrorism occurred, and it would happen to be on the day of the eclipse. Now, I know y'all didn't hear about the eclipse because no one talked about it on the news at all, but it's a small, minor thing that happened. But I just so happened to be in Charlottesville on that day, and I was with actually my team, and I was in a meeting mid-afternoon, and I walked out because I wanted to see the eclipse, and our team had gotten me some of those glasses that you can watch it with, because I'm like the president, I like my eyes, and I want to, and I believe in science, so I didn't want to look up and out, so we got the glasses, I started walking around downtown Charlottesville, literally had no idea where we were going to go, and so we're just looking for the best place to watch this phenomenon. So finally we get to a grassy hill, about 150 people there, walk up, and it turns out that that grassy hill was Emancipation Park. So this is the place where the Robert E. Lee statue sits, and the place where the violence started. And so I walk there, and I see all these people. The mood is very different. They're very joyous on this day. We all go to look up at the eclipse. Literally at the moment that we're supposed to see this eclipse, it starts to rain. And it doesn't rain just a little bit. I mean, buckets and buckets of rain start pouring down, and the clouds form, and it blocks out the eclipse. We can't see it, and we're getting soaking wet. And because I'm a lawyer, not a scientist, I went under a tree, which is not my fault. And I went under a tree to take some cover, but it kept coming. It rained 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes to try to wait it out. Finally, we said, I'm going to go around the corner, just take shelter, and we missed it. Well, an amazing thing happened. With about 3 minutes to go in our window of time to see this eclipse, the clouds parted and the rain stopped. And we had just enough time to walk outside, look up with our glasses on, and to see it. And it was stunning. It was an amazing thing to watch for anyone who got to see it. And then those 2 minutes passed, and something else incredible happened. The rain not only completely stopped, not only the clouds part, but the sky got blue, and it was one of the most beautiful days I had ever seen for the rest of the day. And I thought to myself as I walked back to our offices that is a perfect metaphor for the political times that we live in right now. We are going through a political eclipse. We're going through an administration and a president who wants to undo everything that has been done by someone who I believe is the most successful president in the history of this country, President Barack Obama. And you have now a president who is trying to take his name off of everything, trying to repeal health care for 32 million people, trying to undo DACA for 800,000 people here in this country and 12,000 right here in Virginia, trying to take us out of the Paris Accords, trying anything and everything to discredit and to undo what this president has done. But here's the good news about political eclipses, just like regular eclipses, is that they're temporary. They happen, but they're temporary. The difference is, with a political eclipse, we have to make it go away. It won't just go away because we sit around for 2 minutes and look at it. We have to make it go away by coming out and voting and telling everyone how important it is. They make their voices heard, they cast their ballots so that we can get out of this political darkness. great news is we have power to do it. It's in our hands. We don't have to wait until next year. We don't have to wait for some other state to do it. We get a chance to do it in 58 days. So what you're doing is making that possible, and I could not be more grateful for everything that you do, for the sacrifices that you have made and continue to make, for your support throughout this entire process, for you being here and showing up today. It really matters, and it makes a significant difference. And so we are going to do something special in these 58 days by voting, by getting the word out, by winning these elections, winning seats in the House of Delegates, electing Ralph Northam, electing myself Lieutenant Governor, and Mark Herring, re-electing him to Attorney General. And it's going to matter, and it's going to inspire change throughout the rest of this country. We're writing a great new chapter in American history, and I'm privileged and proud that we get to do that together. So thank you all so much for your friendship, for your leadership, for everything that you have done, and let's go out and win and change the course of history in 58 days. God bless you all.
You take a question?
Yeah, of course, of course, of course. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. No McNamara. Tim, God bless you. Thank you so much. Good.
Nice meeting you. Yeah,
Great time in Australia, too.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank
Thank you, sir. God bless you. Thank you very much. I'm grateful for you. All right. If Annie had not told me she was pregnant, I wouldn't have known. Amazing, I know. She told me, I had no idea. God bless you. Thank you so much. We'll have to catch up. Okay? Yeah, please, please. Oh, so much. Of course. Doctor, thank you. My pleasure. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. We should talk. Yeah, it's part of the practice. Yeah, we should talk. There's so much. First lady, how are you doing? Good job. You have to do that.
I know there were a couple of people that had a couple of questions, because I know Justin does have to move on to his next event. As you can imagine, if you're running a statewide campaign, there's a whole lot of places you got to be.
Yeah.
But I know there are a couple of people who did ask a couple of questions.
Absolutely.
Let him hit a couple of questions. And then I know he's got to sprint, as I see timekeepers always rolling.
No, I'm happy to. I'm happy to. Any questions or thoughts? Okay, please, please.
So, when you become a lieutenant governor in 58 days,
Yes, yes.
and you mentioned on your speech about the startup company, minority company,
Yes.
they have a place, especially a reputation.
Yes.
Also have to have a place in an equal share.
Absolutely.
To win, especially for a smaller company, a startup.
Yep.
Because we have a lot of friends that struggling with the administration very tough. So what's your vision and plan? How are we going to achieve that?
Absolutely. Well, a couple things. As I mentioned, we're very, very small business owners in our own right, and so we understand some of the struggles and challenges that small businesses have. One of the biggest is access to capital. There is often a difficulty, particularly in certain communities, to get capital to flow. If you can't get traditional bank financing or credit union financing, I think we need to really have public-private partnerships with the state that help people to access non-traditional sources of capital. Also, contracting. This is something that we talk a lot about. We are not anywhere near reaching the goals that we've set for minority participation in our state contracts. And it's important to note, because in Virginia we have a $110 billion biennial budget. So every 2 years we spend $110 billion. Much of that through contracting with the state, with private entities. And so we need to have more robust minority, small, women-owned businesses participate in that contracting process. The goal was set for 42%. Most of our sectors don't come anywhere near that. Some have been as low as 1% or less, depending upon the line of business. And that could mean tens or hundreds of millions of dollars of additional money flowing into the small business community in small women and minority-owned businesses. And so that's something I'm passionate about. I actually, in the legal context, now we talked about this, and I helped start an organization called the Virginia Coalition for Racial Diversity in the Justice System, because I'm a lawyer, and I got together with the Hispanic, Latino bar, the Asian American bar, the African American bar, and we looked at the representation numbers of judges and prosecutors and public defenders, and they were abysmal. So for instance, in Loudoun County, there are 12 judges on the Loudoun County bench, 0 minorities. There's never been a minority to sit on the Loudoun County bench. And this is in a county that is now 41% minority, between Asian American, African American, Hispanic, Latino. And so we put a spotlight on this, saying we had similar issues in other counties, Fairfax and other places. So I led a group. We went to lobby the General Assembly, who appoints judges in Virginia. And I had a lot of people say, Justin, you shouldn't do this. You know, you're going to run for statewide office, you shouldn't do this. I said, if we can't make progress on these things and open up opportunity for more people, then it doesn't matter who's in these offices. We have to make sure that people are being brought along with you. And I'm pleased to say that in the 9 or 10 months, when we first started that process, we got significant progress. In Prince William County, we had the first African-American woman ever appointed in the history of the General District Court in a couple hundred years. We got that done in less than a year. We had one of the first Asian American prosecutors hired in Arlington in probably a decade. And so we started to see this progress because we highlighted this, because it mattered. It wasn't just political talking points, and it wasn't, you know, someone saying that I'll do this to win support. It was saying this is what needs to be done. Everybody needs to have a shot. The same is true in the business context. We have to have people with a seat at the table. We have boards and commissions, literally thousands of appointments that we make to boards and commissions, many of them not diverse. So we know that the talent exists in all of our communities. We know it does, but we need to have people who are sitting at the table who fight to make sure that people are included, and I have made that one of my top priorities. So we will fight on all those things.
I wish we could keep him all day.
One more?
You got one more?
You want more? Do one more?
Okay.
I won't talk very long.
Hey, brother, it's your time.
No, but then he's going to kick me out.
All right. I want to make sure that we are sharing him with the rest of the Commonwealth. So yeah, if you got, does somebody have another one for him?
Question, thought?
You want one? I'll give you one.
That's not too hard. If it's hard, I'm going to give it to Michael. All right.
I'm always interested
Yes.
in the veteran service level vet community.
Yes.
And I'm also interested in benefits for those that are retired, that are below a certain age
Right,
group.
right.
And what is your outlook on that?
Absolutely, and we have a significant veteran population here in Virginia. I think we rank 7th, I believe, in the country in terms of our veteran population. We obviously have a lot of active duty as well. There's been great progress in the last 4 years in better supporting our veterans, because the truth is we needed to do a better job, and we still do have to improve. There's a program called V3, Virginia Values Veterans, and essentially what it's geared to do is to help veterans transition so that they can get jobs, higher paying jobs, and have more economic security. Through that program, we've hired about 24,000 veterans into the private sector. Also have made some changes so that veterans can get credit for community college based on their prior service. You have vets who have done incredible things, have been leaders, and yet when they came back here to enroll in higher education, they had to start all over again, even though they could have taught the course, let alone just taking it. So educational opportunities, healthcare obviously is a significant challenge. They've effectively ended veteran homelessness in Virginia, the first state to have done that. We always have to be vigilant about that, but if you serve this nation and protect us and keep us safe, you should be protected when you come back from your service. And we have to make sure that there is economic opportunity, educational opportunity, healthcare access for all veterans. And I want to make Virginia the most veteran-friendly state in the Commonwealth of Virginia. We have significant populations, particularly in Northern Virginia and Hampton Roads. Norfolk, we have the largest naval base in the world. We have the Pentagon, we have Quantico, we have so many installations and families who have sacrificed so much. And so veterans have been a priority over the last 3.5 years, but they will continue to be a very high priority, and those are the areas of focus that we have for vets.
And the other part was,
Yes.
I'm retired, but I'm below 62.
Right.
So there's certain benefits that I get and there's certain that I don't get.
That you don't yet get.
Right.
Right. And that's a gap. I mean, I think and for some people that presents a significant challenge. Whether it's a financial, issue for people. I mean, it's whether your pension comes into play, certain healthcare benefits that you may not kick in until a little bit later. That's also why, because we do have families that are working poor. Some of them from veteran families. We need to expand Medicaid, and that 400,000 encompasses a lot of people. Including some vets. So it's something that we should do. Virginia is one of only 19 states not to have expanded Medicaid. So 31 other states have expanded, in the District of Columbia we have not. And it's outrageous. I think it is fiscally irresponsible for the reasons we talked about, but also I think morally it's the wrong thing to do, to not expand Medicaid. We have to create what we call economic security and opportunity for people. Because you can have a job and be economically insecure. Living paycheck to paycheck, one healthcare crisis away from the family being bankrupt, one, car, exactly, absolutely. And that's what we want, actual security for people. And that's the vision that we're fighting for. And I think if we can, win and start to implement a lot of these things, then people will start to feel that economic security and opportunity, to be able to move up the ladder, send their kids to school, buy a home, start a small business, and really have access to the American dream. I think that's the right way to go. We have a great chance to do that.
All right, thank you.
All right. Thank you.
So one last thing. So Min and I were talking one day and we said, how can we come together and what can we do to help the campaign? And anyone that knows Min and knows Millennium Enterprises knows it's a room full of geniuses. Okay?
Absolutely.
Like one of the most talented groups I've ever seen in my life. And what they have created there was their Millennium Mixed Reality. So one of the things that we did was when we were looking at some of this technology, and Min and I and Tim were sitting down and we were talking, and I said, you know what this could be used for and how it can be used? We started talking about justice. So what this does is, as you see this picture and you see my logo, what happens is through their app that is created, as you hold that app over whatever the image is that we have highlighted, which for this case was this card right here, what happens is my video comes up and it plays. Now, it seems like something's like, oh, that's cool, right? But what we've done is we've now created the opportunity to change the game. Because what happens is you now have the ability to enter in the information. So I'm going to enter in my age, my race, my sex, whatever. So now I know who I'm targeting. So what this allows us to do is to change your message depending on what that target looks like. So you can speak specifically to who it is that you're trying to reach. If we're trying to reach that young college kid at UVA, we have a message for them. If we're trying to reach the veteran that's 62 years old, we have a message and we can gear that message directly to them. 55. Just run with it, Stan. Run with it. But we can adjust in that way. Min doesn't like to brag on himself, but I tell people one of the best things at my arsenal is that I'm surrounded by geniuses, okay? And with that, that was something that we thought that we could utilize to be able to help this campaign when it comes time for our Get Out the Vote efforts.
Absolutely.
Nobody else has this.
That's great.
You now have access to geniuses.
That's awesome. Thank you.
So we just thank you. With that,
Thank you guys so much. God bless you all. Thank you, everybody, very
When is
much.
the election?
November the 7th. Thank you, Doctor. November the 7th. It's such a big day. Can we all say it together? November the 7th. November 7th. All right, that's a big day. All right, thank you again. God bless you. Appreciate you very much. All right, thank you again. All right, look forward to meeting you. So you and Zakiya.
Yeah, I will definitely show
We're going to get you over here. All right, we're going to work out. We're going to work out. God bless you. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. God bless you.
Nice meeting you again.
Thank you so much, Mario. God bless you. Thank you so
You
much.
as well.
You're awesome. All right, please stay in touch.
All right.
All right, thank you. All right, bud. I gotta head out, okay? Thank you for hanging out. We're gonna get a hug. Thank you so much. Thanks, buddy. Love you. Max. Mel. All right, see you, bud. Take care. Thank you so much, bud. Come to your house. Thank you. Great job. Awesome. Thank you so much, sir. God bless you. Thank you so much. God bless you. Thank you. Thank you again. Thank you. Okay. I'm so grateful to you.
That's it? That's easy for me.